faster than the time it takes to brew a cup of tea.
High Tea Mystique reminds you that no experience is too big or too small to teach us something about ourselves.
Join us for a cup of tea as we steep into adulting, womanhood, independence, and more.
Ooh, shoot.
Okay, so essentially, right.
Awaken the ancestors. That's the best impression I have of oh my god, what is his name? Oh my god, he was in Star Trek.
Like that.
Oh my god.
Wait,
Guys, it's
Spock?
gonna kill me. Nope. I need to look it up.
Who else is in Star
I need to
Trek?
look it up. I need
Shit
to look it up.
on J.O. Party.
Well, while she's going back to that, I'm really trying to rack my brain to figure out how Mulan is the young children's Monty Python. I trust you though.
My brain also fails.
We just trust Tess.
George
But
Takei.
also
Oh,
George
okay.
Takei.
Okay.
George Takei.
George Takei.
Oh, he was the voice actor for the big,
he was the
ominous
voice
god.
actor for the main family ancestor in Mulan, the one that says "Woo-hoo,
Wow.
awaken the ancestors."
And he was also in Monty Python.
And
No?
was he in Monty Python?
No, I don't know.
No, I don't
I'm
think he was
asking
in
because of
Monty
the
Python.
connection.
No,
Okay.
no. I just say that because Mulan is it's such a woman's Knight's Tale, and Monty Python is literally
Okay.
Knight's Tales.
Okay.
So, just saying.
Well, I
Mulan
love
did it
that
better.
connection.
Mulan did it much better. Yes.
Mulan did a lot of things better. However, yep. So we're not going to get controversial so early on in the episode.
We got too many spooky things
There
to worry
are just
about.
some
Yeah.
iconic moments from Monty Python that make it difficult for me to agree on all terms.
Tis but a flesh
Well,
wound.
anyway, my friends,
Welcome.
happy October!
Happy October.
I'm so
Halloween is
excited.
starting now.
To say that we have been waiting for this month for the entirety of our podcast is an understatement.
Severe understatement.
A severe understatement.
Severe.
Because this, I think, was the main reason why we wanted to create a podcast specifically in this nature. Because what the month of October, what the season of fall offers is everything that our podcast aims to be.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Turning of the tides, changing of the seasons, tapping into the spiritual realm and world that is you.
Steeping, taking our time with things. Yep.
Totally. So, what better way for us to begin this embarking into the month of October than with a new series?
Yeah.
So, this new series is titled Season of the Witch.
You already know.
So the episodes that you'll be experiencing in October are all going to revolve around all things witchy, all things spook, tapping into some topics that are a little bit darker than what we have normally talked about. And what better way to begin that with today's episode, which is titled A Nightmare on Dream Street.
I'm
bum,
so
bum.
excited.
I know, I was about to say we need to cue in something really dark in this moment.
Insert the Halloween music.
Mm-hmm.
Insert Pam saying, I'm so excited.
I'm so excited.
Oh, no.
Watch your back.
Awesome. So, again, really, really excited about this episode. So by the title, you can see A Nightmare on Dream Street, a play on words of the most iconic and classic horror film ever created, A Nightmare on Elm Street. But replacing it with the word dream means that today we are talking about a topic that you all wanted to hear based on one of our previous episodes mentioning just a little bit about it. Well, congratulations. Today's episode is all about dreams. We're talking night terrors, dreams, vivid realizations, lucid dreams. We're going to get into a little bit of all of it because, of course, we don't have enough time to really go into depth on these topics. But we're going to do our best. So, This is the portion of the episode where we talk about our tea selection that is geared towards the topic. But before we do, today's tea is very special as it was actually a gift. So I'm going to let Pam tell us a little bit about the tea that we have, and then I'll talk about why it's good for us.
So, the tea that we are drinking today is a beautiful, magical, mystical blue tea that was given to me by one of my good friends from work, Liza. And it's based off a book series. Oh, I should have brought the tin with me to read it off.
Oh, it's okay.
But it's called The Deep Blue Abyss, and it's from Tea Punk Teas. And I'll go ahead and add their link in our description as well, just to shout them out real quick. And she gave it to me because I told her about our podcast, and she thought this would be a good tea for us to enjoy. And she knows that I enjoy teas as well. And it just so happens to be a magical butterfly pea tea. So, you want to tell us more about it?
Yeah, absolutely. And we created a little something to show you guys exactly why it's considered to be a magical tea. But before I talk about that, the benefits. So, synchronicities all throughout our lives. Pam just happened to receive this gift between recordings for us. So, this is the first opportunity we have to use the tea. And it's insane how perfectly it blends in with the idea of dreams. So, our tea is a blend of both oolong and the butterfly pea flower. So, the butterfly pea flower is a natural blue flower. So, it's going to give you this radiant blue pigment in the tea, as Pam has already stated. And butterfly pea flower is, we know it because it's just such a beautiful pigment and color. It's used in a lot of different things, especially as like a color additive to make it that. But medicinally, butterfly pea is known to combat insomnia as well as reduce stress. And a lot of the reasons that we don't have dreams, especially as adults, is because our mind is foggy and because we have anxiety and stress. In the same way that it can induce dreams, it can also prohibit dreams, right? Depending on where these stresses are coming from and what they're linked to. And also, stress can induce maybe not a dream, but a night terror, right? So, butterfly pea is going to work to relax you. And it is also, which I think is pretty cool, it contains a really powerful antioxidant inside of it. I'm going to reference it so that I don't pronounce it poorly, but it's called anthocyanin. And what it does is it gives off a nootropic effect, nootropics being anything that stimulates brain function and cognition. And what that does is it's actually linked to creating even more vivid dreams than you would normally have because your brain activity becomes higher while you're sleeping, and increased memory. So, after having those vivid dreams, you're more likely to remember or retain the most pivotal moments of those dreams, if not the entirety of the dream itself.
So I can relive my trauma over and over and over again.
If there's a negative one, yes.
I also have to say, this part of the podcast is one of my favorites as well. And I've heard a lot of you guys comment on it with just how knowledgeable you are on the teas and how much insight and additional insight you gain from them. So I'm really happy to hear that you guys enjoy it. And thank you so much to Caitlin, our resident tea expert, for explaining the teas every single
We
episode.
always try to teach it in a way that's not so wordy, and so that you guys can like really gain the benefits from it and want to use it, because we all know the butterfly PT. It's just known as such a pretty tea. So how cool to know that it's something that really will aid you while you sleep, and to know that when you take it, right? And I also just wanted to give a couple of other examples of nootropics, because I did state that it acts as a nootropic. There are so many amazing nootropics. Some of them are going to be specifically a chemical that can be found within certain things, but it's important to know that CBD is a nootropic that's meant to increase relaxation and reduce anxiety. We also know that ashwagandha is another powerful nootropic, and ginseng would be just a third one, just to like kind of build familiarity in your mind, because we know these things and we know how they're good for us. And you can add the butterfly pea flower to that list. So that is our tea for today. Enjoy. Woo! The magical element. You want to say it, Pam?
Yeah, I was going to say, so what makes this tea so magical, and maybe if you're on social media a couple years ago, I think it was trending a little bit in cocktails as well, is the flower is blue and produces a blue pigment when you brew it. But if you add acid to it, so lemon juice, lime juice, it'll actually transform and make it purple.
Which is what we're drinking.
Yes.
We have it with lemon juice or lime juice.
Lime. I am Peruvian. I only have limes.
Of course, they're all lemons.
No, they're all
They're all
limes.
limes.
Lemons don't exist. They're
You're
all
right.
limes.
They're all limes. They're all limes.
They're all limons.
Yes, I was about to say, should I say they're all limon?
lemon.
Mhm.
Awesome. So
We all got our purple drink on. Yeah.
that's right, my purple drink. Thanks, Beyonce. So are you all ready to get into it?
So ready.
Let's dive.
Get into today's episode?
Yes.
So just to again open us up in today's episode, A Nightmare on Dream Street.
Bum, bum, bum.
So we decided to talk about dreams. Again, we touched on it on a previous episode, and people seemed to really connect to the topic. And I think that dreams are a secret weapon. I think that dreams are, in a way, they can be a way that we can communicate with things beyond our understanding and beyond our world, beyond our realm. But I also think that no matter what, any dream can offer deep truths about yourself, the way that you see yourself, the way that you feel viewed by other people, and it can create a beautiful opportunity for reflection. So if there's one thing that I think all of us can agree on, it is that. But what I think is really cool about our episode is we're going to be talking about the ways that dreams are actually very different for all of us, and the differences in how we interpret, if we do interpret, how we receive them, what we do after an impactful dream, what is our most impactful dream. And then, of course, we'll be talking about night terrors, nightmares, and exactly what that constitutes to us. So, to start us off, and I'm going to ask Tess
Hey,
to start us off with this one.
what's up?
Tess, and this can just be like a yes or no question,
Oh,
but are you the type to, after having a dream, kind of question exactly like what it was that the dream was? Do you like to decipher and interpret your dreams?
I will say no, because I feel like my dreams are very literal.
Very literal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
How so?
So I think this I'll say two stories because this is the common thread, right? You did preview that we're going to ask a different question, so I apologize for everyone out there if I sound kind of paradoxical, but I promise you this is like 80% of my dreams are something is going to happen like right now. Or something is happening where my dreams a lot of the times will tell me, for example, like your front door's unlocked, and it'll show me someone trying to break into my door, and it'll show me like the image I always conjure up when I think of these dreams. And actually what wakes me up from these dreams is I'm reaching for the door, and at the exact moment someone else is trying to open it on the other side, and it works, like they open. And I think my mind is so stressed out about that because I see my front door. I see exactly the part of my house, right? I feel the vulnerability, and I feel the affirmation like that door is unlocked and you need to go lock it. And I wake up and I'm like, you know what? Let me go check my door. And it's been unlocked. I can tell you that's happened twice to me, and every time I go check my door, and twice it has been unlocked, and I've been like, oh my god, my brain is protecting me. Thank you, whoever's up there working this out, Thank you for that little plankton in my mind, like switching gears. And I've gone
it's
up.
just nutty
Yes.
to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that your dreams feel like reality and really do affect your reality.
Yeah. So I feel like that's why it's a no, because I feel like it's always so literal. It's always so go do this. There's no interpretation. Just go and do this right now. So I'm like, okay. And then my mind literally wakes up. It's almost like you have the direction, now go and do it. And I wake up, and that's the first thing I want to do. I want to check my front door. And like I said, I've had this dream multiple times in different places that I've lived or slept in. and I've always gotten up, checked the door. And I can tell you in my house, it's happened twice where I'm checking the door and it's been unlocked. Like, not just loose or like, oh, like, one is like, no, hardcore unlocked, very vulnerable. And I was like, oh my God. And I checked the living room. I like checked the surrounding area by the front door. And I'm like, is anyone inside? Like, I get so scared. It's even happened where it was, again, the very like direct message, but it was about my brother's car door. And it was about his car. And the dream was me kind of standing in my doorway, right, looking at his car in the driveway, and somebody's like in the car, somebody unknown, just weird figure in the car rummaging, because they opened the door and got in, and my mind's telling me the door is unlocked, the door is open. And I wake up from that, just the stress, right, of my brain saying go do this thing. And I wake up and I checked, and lo and behold, the entire car, all the doors were unlocked. And I was like, did someone break in here? And I check and I was like, okay, well, time to lock the car. And that has both, like, all three of those events have happened where I wake up and it's like in the middle of the night. It's like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. So, witching hour in effect. Yes. And I always thankfully have saved myself and my family members from something. I feel that for sure. Yeah.
You have short-term future vision.
That's a test.
Into 5 seconds of the future, she can see.
That's right.
It's actually not it's happening right now.
You know, when you
My
said
mind
that,
is like, it's already happening. The door's already
Yeah,
unlocked.
that's nuts.
Go lock it.
I know, right? She almost finds out too late, which is crazy.
well, it's not too late.
And she was
yeah,
never
no,
seen
but it's
again.
like that soon is it's what's interesting.
When you said that, all I pictured was the Mean Girls scene where the girl's like, "There's a 30% chance it's already raining."
Yeah, there's 100%
Your brain's like,
chance.
"There's 100% chance."
Yeah,
this is
my
going
brain is
on.
like, there's 100% chance that door is unlocked, girl. Go check it. But yeah. And other times, of course, I've had the same dream and I felt like really, the same stress to like get up and check, and the door has been fine. But I think that's the kind of myth of people telling you that your dreams are trying to prepare you for something.
Yeah. Totally.
So I feel like my mind has kind of absorbed, like, oh, it's been right once, so it could be happening right now. The little plankton in my brain is like, I can't access the memory of me locking the door, so I'm going to produce this dream. So yeah.
Something that comes to my mind is most recently, what an exposure on my part because it was a bad one, but I left my front door like open when I left for the day, and my boyfriend, he works on inspections where he goes out of town, so he was out of town during this time. I live in a duplex and I was gone for the entire day. I came back at night and my door was wide open. And I was just so like confused and terrified, and I was alone, and I was like, "Oh my god, my cat. Like, where is my cat?" And I just assumed that somebody had broken into my house. I didn't know what to do. So I knocked on my neighbor's door and like said like, "Hi, I'm so sorry. This is so out of nowhere, but my door is open. I do not know what happened. I would just like some comfort while I try to step inside my house. I don't feel safe walking in my house by myself." And like lo and behold, at the moment I did not realize that I had left that door open. But I called JP, my boyfriend, and I told him what had happened. And he was like, just as scared as I was in the moment, like on the phone with me while I was navigating all the rooms to eventually realize no one was here. I think I left the door open. And I had the evidence to prove it from a picture that my sister, who had passed by my house earlier that day, she took a picture of something that I had left for her. And then in the picture, I saw that the door was open, like teeny tiny bit open. So throughout the day, it just busted open. Well, fast forward to less than a week later, my partner JP had a night terror about the house getting robbed. So that's why I think what you said is so interesting, because you've had dreams like that where it's clearly a response to fear, but you've also had the reverse side where it was really an anticipation to something that had actually happened, and that those dreams happened beforehand right? Like the
Yes.
dreams that you've had since were really almost like a repetition of a fear that because it was already true, because you'd already done this, and it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
your
yeah.
dream that informed you of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have shared these dreams, right? Cuz I feel like also I have been alone in these situations, right? Like I haven't really woken anyone up. I just check and then I'm like, "Oh my god," and I lock. And I remember specifically like sharing these experiences with especially my brother's experience because he was very particular about locking doors. Like he's very much kind of the person that's like, have all your viewpoints, check your doors, double lock your things, right? Deadbolt this. So I, found it a very rub it in your face moment to tell him, your car was unlocked yesterday, bitch. And then he was like, no, it wasn't. I locked it. And I was like, I literally went outside 3 a.m. in the morning, had a dream. Your car was unlocked. I went to go check it and it was unlocked. And I told him I checked every single door. All of them were open. Well, not physically open like your door was, but unlocked. Anybody could come up, press the button and open it. And he was like, "Oh my god, how did you have that dream?" And I was like, "I don't know because I've never had like I will say that I've never had a dream like that about cars, like that specific one. I've always kind of had this fear because everyone has a front door. Everyone's kind of I should check it before I go to bed, right? Feeling, but never that specific about his car. You know, it was just showing me like my dream was showing me
Your
someone in
angels
it.
were protecting you that day.
I mean, honestly,
Or him,
they
rather.
yeah they were protecting my brother's car, which
Cars need protection too.
I'll take it. It sucks to get to see somebody robbed either way, so I will take that. Thank bless up. Yeah.
Bless up. What a great transition. uh, Pam, we're gonna move this question on to you to take us back to the question. Um, do you decipher and interpret your dreams? And just a reminder, Tess had stated that she doesn't, right? And we understand why, because she has more literal dreams that are not to be deciphered. They're literally a call to action. How is it for you?
No, because it's really hard for me to remember them. Remember them long enough to think about deciphering them. Like whenever I have dreams, there are some times where I'll have very vivid dreams, and most of the time I'll think about it, but I'm so tired that I'm like, I have to remember this dream so I can look it up later, and then later comes and I never remember it.
Later
Oh,
comes.
So I
that's a
definitely need
familiar
a
feeling.
dream journal, but the
Aw.
answer is no.
Okay. So, what do you kind of gather from your dreams? Maybe is it more of like an emotional response, like how you feel when you wake up from the dream?
I will tell you, my dreams are really weird. I think I would love to have a conversation with somebody who interprets dreams to really truly understand them. The dreams that I feel that I've had have been, I've noticed that there are directly related to maybe movies that I've seen, because growing up I was sheltered in the sense that I could not watch a PG-13 movie until I was 13. Not much rated R until I was 18, and so all I would see are Disney movies and kid movies, and they're all so happy go lucky and everything like that. And there was one, like, the dreams that I remember that are correlated to movies that I've seen. There was one that I remember waking up crying for these people that I had no connection to, but it was basically, I feel, a scene from the Indiana Jones series because it was just a whole bunch of Indians that were trying to sacrifice two people and they were being pulled down into a lava pit. And I was bawling when I woke up. But what did that mean? No idea. Did I look it up? No, I was 10. And then as I was older,
That's a fair response.
I like that answer.
yeah, I realized, like, oh yeah, I remember watching the Indiana Jones film, being really scared, and that's probably why I had the dream. And it was probably a mix also with like the Black Cauldron, because I feel like, or even Who Framed Roger Rabbit, because I don't think there's a lava scene. I have
Well, it's not a lava scene, but it's that acid, that tank of acid scene. That
no, but I'm talking
same.
about in Indiana Jones.
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah,
Actually,
I feel like there isn't. So my brain tends to mix things all together. Um, But ultimately,
Just a lot of booby traps.
yeah, I feel like most of the
Like
dreams
fire
that
pit.
I do have are not, they're not really clear. So it's hard to answer that question because I mean, I'll get into it in the other ones when you ask us about our dreams, but there's two distinct ones that I can remember that I would love to have an interpreter tell me what it means, especially because one of them has been a recurring dream and I've heard, right, that or the faces that you see in your dreams are faces you have actually seen in real life, whether
Yes.
you remember, even if it's just glancing by and you're walking, if
Mhm.
you saw the face, you know, those are the faces that will pop up. So I would definitely love to talk to an interpreter for one specific dream that I will detail later on in this episode.
Can't wait.
It's really spoopy.
To be continued. We love spoopy stuff. Yeah, I think that that's totally valid, and I'm sure that there are so many of our listeners who feel and have the exact same relationship with dreams because I feel that. And I think that, and I said this in the beginning, right, with our opener into the fact that dreams are an opportunity for reflection. But I say opportunity because it's important to remember that it's your own mind that is creating these. And of course, we're spiritual beings, right? So we're able to extend beyond our own mind and receive signs and signals from other things that are out there. But also, it's all to be taken with a grain of salt, right? Because again, your own mind, I know I've talked in episodes before, also known as the voice of knowledge, right? That voice that lives in your head that you think is God, but it's actually your own manifestation of what you think is your controlling power. That's also in your dreams, So it's important to consider that when you are trying to decipher a message, because it might just be a message that you created in your own mind, like the fact that your door is unlocked and it's actually not locked. That's always a very real possibility. So for me, I decipher my dreams. I love to interpret my dreams. I love finding all of the little like symbols and references in my dreams, from like teeny tiny little things to very very clear messages. And I think that the reason why I do that is because of my mom. So my mom, and I don't know if I've talked about this part of my mom's spiritual relationship before, but my mom has always been able to see signs and visions in real time. So she will see things while she's driving. She'll see things while she's just sitting on the couch. She'll see things while she's meditating or reading something. They can happen at any time. And they feel like she can touch them, right? And this is my mom's relationship with the spirit world. So, for anyone that this might be a little newer to them, welcome. And as a child, hearing my mom tell me about these visions that she would see, some of these visions were about me. Some of these visions were about the progress of us when it was just the two of us as a family, and like what she saw for us in the future that would eventually come true. As I got older, she started sharing darker ones with me, ones that were more of a fear, ones that were more of, at times, a very specific person in our life, that would just appear to her, right, in a very, very specific way that told her to know to guard her heart. And, because my mom is religious, she attributes these to signs from God. And I don't doubt that. I think that it's really, really interesting that she has dreams in real time. And I think that that's what fueled my interest, because she would explain these stories and had this like very deep connection to what they meant. But when she said it to me, there was a time where it was in reference, this was when I was a little kid, and it was in reference to um, me just going to a different school. And she had had a dream of seeing me on a carousel. And I remember she was driving, it was dark at night, and she was just driving and she was like, "Oh my God, I just saw you riding a carousel around and you were switching horses." And she just knew in that moment that it meant that I would be switching schools. And then lo and behold, something happened with the school that I was at, and I had to switch schools. I think it was money or something like that. But it was really interesting as a child, to hear my mom have such a defined understanding of what this meant. And as a kid, I was like, you just said I was on a merry-go-round. Like that doesn't make any sense to me.
What does that mean, Mom? I don't know
Yeah.
what that means. I don't know. Are we
But
going to the youth fair? I don't
right,
know.
sounds like fun to me. Be there. But no, it meant so much more. And so it really opened up my eyes. And I think that I didn't have, well, I guess, yeah, kind of like recurring dreams. There were a lot of dreams that I had as a kid that like I had them so many times that eventually I was just like, what does this mean? I had, and many of you may be familiar with the dream of your teeth falling out, right? Or the dream of your hair falling out. And for anyone who may not have interpreted this, it's um, typically linked to body image and being not happy with the way that you look. And that's pretty natural to go through during puberty, and that's when I was having these dreams and a little bit into adulthood too, but it was interesting because when I was having these dreams, I was like, my teeth are going to fall out. And that same feeling of like waking up and like grabbing your mouth and being like, it's not that, but why am I having this so many times? And once I tapped in and realized it was that, I was like, that's so different from what I experienced in the dream, while still being extremely accurate to what I'm going through right now and how I feel about myself.
And it feels so real.
Painful.
Yeah. I the way that it falls, the way that it feels that it's like a little weak. Oh my god, I got chills.
And there are things that even tap into the way that it falls out too, right? Like, was it pushed out of you, right? Like, were you in a fight with someone, or was it something where you were like in the bathroom, technically looking in a mirror, but there's also knowledge on what it's like to look in a mirror in a dream, right? That's its own separate, like, deciphering, I guess, is what I would think to say. And um but you have that idea, right? So like the different ways that you do it also affect what the dream is trying to communicate to you, again, of like what your inner conscious wants you to feel. And just so interesting. And so I'm obsessed with that. I love having a dream. I love that, like, we'll get into this more later, but like as an adult, that rare occasion where you wake up and you really, really remember that dream, like it's so exciting for me because I feel like it's a little nugget into my self-conscious that I'm not aware of yet. I'm sending a subliminal message to myself of something that I want to consider. And so I think that's all it is. It's my job to kind of figure out what it's about and what I need to learn from it, because how cool that I get to teach myself something right now.
I have a question for you.
Mhm.
Have you ever literally dreamt of just like blackness, darkness, or known that you're asleep and there's nothing, like you see nothingness? Because it sounds like you have a lot of dreams. So I wonder if you've ever had that happen to you.
I haven't. I haven't
No?
had that experience. No.
Because I feel like before I've had moments where I've fallen asleep. I know I'm sleeping, and I know that all I'm doing is staring into blackness, like darkness all around me. And when I wake up, I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't have any dreams. But when I think about it, I kind of did because I remember it, but it was just nothing.
That's really interesting, Pam.
Somebody out
Because-
there, tell us what that
Well,
means.
you had a memory
Yeah,
of
yeah.
blackness,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
which is valid
And
because it's
interesting.
real. There are black holes in our world.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. I've had dreams
And
of
no,
dark.
to answer that, I don't think that I have.
Right. I've had
But you
dream
did
of
trigger some curiosity.
dark spaces, but not like nothing. Because even then, it's like, oh, I'm in a cave or I'm underwater. My worst nightmares.
Yeah,
by the
no,
way.
it's like when you
Underwater
see
in a dream is
oh god, when you see in movies or in film when people walk into like whiteness, and usually that's like they're in death or they're
and I've
like
done that in a
transitioning.
dream.
But think of that, but it's just black. It's just darkness.
And
Like,
you don't see yourself.
no. If I were to be in a room all dark with like absolute true darkness, that's what it feels like.
Does anyone out there share that experience? Now I'm like morbidly
Yeah,
curious.
I'm
Yeah.
curious too because I thought this was normal, but I guess it's not.
Yeah.
Well,
dreaming of
amongst us
blackness.
three, it's not. But
Because
who
I mean,
knows?
I've had dreams that have gotten pretty close. Like I've had dreams where I felt things shutting in on me, And I've had dreams where I felt my world getting darker and darker and darker, but there was a story beforehand.
No.
Like it was almost like it was
Same.
dimming,
Yeah.
I see.
but never just blackness. That was never the full memory.
Ever since, which I guess I share with Pam, ever since the trash compacting scene in Star Wars A New Hope, I have had lots of dreams of being in a space and walls enclosing.
Have you deciphered what that means?
No idea, except my claustrophobia.
Well, I know one thing that it could mean, but again, as I've already mentioned, it's so specific to the scenario.
Yeah.
But if anyone's curious, one thing that it could mean is feeling overburdened.
Oh,
Yeah, like I don't know how
That makes
recently you
sense.
had this stream, but yeah,
It's
feeling
kind of-
overburdened and out of control.
kind of reoccurring.
Because I've had that dream too. Oh no. It's kind of reoccurring every night these days.
Well,
no.
no, it's been a long time. But I mean, again, ever since I watched A New Hope, that image has kind of,
Yeah.
and also something being in the space while the space is shrinking. Because that's kind of the Star Wars story, is that they're in a trash compactor and there's like a monster sucking them down. Okay. Anyway.
We might be recording this episode too close to bedtime. That's okay. Because it's October.
Give me those night terrors.
Yeah, Anyway, I guess to wrap up this question, yes, I do decipher and interpret my dreams, and I've already expressed how I do it. I mean, I usually kind of just look for trusted sources on the internet, I'll be honest, but I never read just one. I try to read like 3 or 4 sources and like not have them start and end with the letter W and end with Wikipedia. And that's always a good place to start.
Asking for a friend. What that?
Exactly. And just making like informed, conscientious choices when I realize what does and does not connect to me. I always read multiple sources, and I find it to be very informing. And one thing that I have dabbled in but have never remained consistent in is having a dream journal. And it was really helpful because it also helped me realize how infrequently I was having dreams, right? Of like realizing like, oh, I don't have anything to write today. Oh, I don't have anything to write today either. I'm just not retaining them. I heard once that we always dream because our mind is always rolling. But I don't know. I believe that as that's my truth.
I do believe that as well.
But I
yes.
usually don't remember them.
Yeah. I think it's 2 different capacities of the brain to dream and then remember,
Yeah. Which is, again, why it gets so exciting when I do. All right. So that closes us out for that one. So the next question, because it's spooky season, we actually want to talk about nightmares, night terrors. So something that I thought would be a cool approach to this question, nightmares. What is the difference to experience a nightmare as a child? And Pam, you can start us off for this one. And like as it moves into adulthood. So you can talk about the differences if you want, but I really kind of just want to know like what has been the evolution of night terrors for you guys as you've gotten older? Because I know for me, night terrors are nothing today like what they were when I was a kid.
I think I would have to agree with that. When you're little, there's so many things that can be scary. And when you're older, there's so many things that occupy your mind that don't even allow you the time to be scared of something.
Well said.
Yeah. So when I was little, again, most of my night terrors, I feel, were directly linked to movies that I've seen that would give me nightmares. The feeling of a nightmare, even though I don't remember it, definitely the movie The Black Cauldron gave me nightmares when I was little. It was super terrifying for me. I know Tess loves that movie.
Cookie.
No. I was so terrified of that character.
So cute.
He was petrifying to me. But I don't know if this would be considered an evolution, but I feel like this is a good point to bring up the dream that I had, because really it's the only real night terror that I've ever really had. The other dreams are kind of...
What?
Yeah, like I don't think I've had many nightmares. I've had maybe 2 or 3 in my life
that you've remembered.
that I remember.
I
Yeah.
can't tell if she's very lucky or if she just has an extremely high, like, pain threshold.
The brain protects itself, guys. Like things that are unpleasant, the brain be like, boop, I want to forget that as soon as possible.
You know, that actually does sound like Pam's character. I'm sorry, as you were saying.
I do have a pretty high pain tolerance, so it would make sense.
That too. There we go.
So the dream that I've had that has completely petrified me, right? So the Indiana Jones one that I was talking about before, I woke up crying. It was a little scary, but it was nothing like this. If I've had it in my childhood, I haven't had it yet in my adulthood. So what do I mean by that? I've had it one time in elementary school. I think maybe 4th or 5th grade. I had it once in middle school, and I had it once again in high school. And it's the same dream. It always starts and ends the same way. I'm having some other dream or thinking about something else as I'm sleeping, and then somehow all of a sudden I think there's like darkness around me or things start dimming like how you guys were mentioning earlier. But then I feel this fear wash over me where my brain is just racing and it's like he's coming. You know, he's coming for you, or I know that some figment is going to come out and I recognize this person's face, and I know, like, my brain very clearly knows who they are and that I'm terrified of them and that they're going to be coming and approaching. And every single time, what happens is a face kind of comes up from the darkness and like manifests itself in front of me. And in the same split second that it comes up, I recognize the face. I know who it is. I'm frozen still, like I can't move. And I wake up, and as soon as I wake up, I can never remember the face ever. And it's happened to be once when I was in elementary, once in middle school, once in high school, and I've not had it since. But it's always the same. It's always the same face. It's always the same person. I have this deep feeling that I know who it is. But as soon as I see them, I recognize the face. I recognize everything, all of the feelings. And when I wake up, because I'm so scared of them, whatever that is, I can't remember the face.
And it's so interesting because of what you've already said, which is that we only see things that we know in our dreams. So for me, the real question is like, has it been the same face every time?
For sure. When the face comes, I know it's the same one. And I know that it's going to come. And when I see it, I recognize it and I know it's the same face. But as soon as I wake up, for the life of me, I cannot remember the face. And to me, that's always been one thing that I've been wanting to research, but I just never have because then I forget about it. But because our dreams and faces from the dreams come from people that we've seen or that we know, and because I have this feeling, it makes me wonder, did something happen to me when I was little that I don't remember or that I'm repressing? Or is this a manifestation of something else? Like, I have no idea.
Yeah, and the brain is a powerful tool. And,
Mm-hmm.
Very powerful.
and it's interesting how it happened at such pivotal, not necessarily that they were pivotal moments in your life, but the
The 3 big stages, I think.
Yeah.
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
through like the 3 major schooling stages of
Mhm.
any child's life.
Yeah. And just once in each of those stages.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's spooky.
It is really spooky. It is terrifying.
Also, someone
Because of
tell
the
us what
fear.
that means.
I know, please decipher it for us.
Tell us. Cite your sources
Yeah, it's
too.
spooky because, even though you've only ever had like just a few night terrors, and this one is like, one that you've had 3 times, the idea that it is recurring is terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Like it can happen again at any time, technically, even though it hasn't happened for many years. And I hope it doesn't happen again because it does sound terrifying. And
Yeah,
I've
I
never
hope so
wished
too.
a night terror on anyone, especially as an adult. And I'll start off for this one. So I, a same boat with Pam. I think that night terrors when I was a kid were nothing, man. I think that I had a lot of night terrors just about things that I was naturally afraid of. So I had a lot of nightmares about alligators because I lived in Florida. I remember having a night terror and it wasn't hurricane season, but I remember having a night terror that a hurricane came, flooded my house, and my backyard had an alligator and a Florida panther. That's just what was there when I opened the backyard, like, and it was a nightmare. Like, I woke up and I was like, there's an alligator, it means nothing. But then as you get older, the night terrors start to shift and change, and they become a little bit more rooted because I think our relationships with people become a little bit more rooted. So then you start to have night terrors that can feel a little too real. So I remember when the movie Inception came out, and I had essentially an Inception dream. So I had a dream that never ended, and I woke up 3 times. So I remember, like, the first time waking up, the second time waking up, and it was just like the movie where, like, by the 3rd time I was like trying to wake up and realizing I was in the dream, I had also kind of been like, oh my God, but I've taken control. And so because I've taken control, like, now I can do whatever I want. And then, like, the eyes, and that was petrifying. Like, it was scary every time to, like, keep waking up, but then it became extra scary when I was like, oh my God, you guys are all now evil. Like, you guys all see me and now you're my villains. And I'm the only good guy, right? Because the other reverse would be that I'm the villain, but I'm never my villain. And so that was terrifying. And I was, like, in high school for that, So it was a time where you think that you're over that stuff. Things don't scare you anymore. And then boom, I watch Inception and I'm having a nightmare from it. And I think that night terrors kind of just started to get darker. And now I can't remember the last time I had a night terror, but one that I can think of, and like what makes it really, really different, like why I think of it as more of an evolution, is that I was in a relationship and I had a night terror about my relationship. And I knew that my relationship wasn't good, but it wasn't affecting my dreams. Like, it wasn't affecting, it wasn't something that I was losing sleep over because I was just living it out day to day. And the night terror, like, totally villainized this person in my head. And when I woke up, it was as if I was changed. Like, it was very weird. I was in water and I was going in and out of the water, right? Like, I was with this person and they were playing with me in the water, and then they started submerging me under the water. And at first it seemed like a lot of fun. And then I would, like, rise up from the water, and then all of a sudden someone else was there. And then I would go back down and I'd come back up, and, like, the bodies kept growing until the bodies started shifting into different things, and then they morphed into just these, like, crazy graphic images that in the moment were scary, were really terrifying and petrifying. And it was all the root of this person who was very real and in my life at that moment. And so I woke up and I just couldn't shake this feeling. And I didn't do anything. Like, I stayed with that person for a couple more years, but it was such an interesting thing to recognize that so early on in a toxic relationship, I was already giving myself signs that I needed to leave. And that was a very adult dream to have, like, that was a very real fear. That was, like, fear bleeding into all aspects of my life. And that's kind of what night terrors have become for me. I think that now when I have night terrors, the reason why they're so terrifying is because they're reminding me that there are things in my life that I feel unsettled by. And that's why they're affecting my sleep. Like, a night terror is never going to be something that you can sleep through. It's always going to have to wake you up. And for that reason, it's, a wake up call. And what is it a wake up call to? I think it depends on the terror. And doesn't get easier. It really doesn't get easier. But at least I can recognize that as I've gotten older, they are happening less frequently, which is a sign that I interpret my own ways. And for me, it's a sign that I'm more grounded in my decision making and trust what I do so that I don't have to lose sleep over it. Interesting how that's saying. Remember our first episode, cliches that are true?
Yeah.
Don't lose sleep over it. You might have a nightmare. Like, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Our minds are incredibly powerful because even when you said um you had described the dream as almost doing something to your mind, in my head I instantly started thinking it's your mind forming that dream. You know, it's the message that you already kind of know, because we are very intelligent. Even if we want to ignore what we're thinking, we know so much and we underestimate it a lot until it becomes extremely obvious and we're like, ah, yes, it's all coming together. It's much more clear in my head. Um, if I were to answer your question, right, about night
Oh, please do.
terrors, thank you. Thank you. All right. I very much feel the sentiment of my night terrors when I was young were very graphic, very monster based, kind of like alligators in my backyard, right? For me, they were also very influenced by movies. Specifically, when I was a kid, I remember having a really strange nightmare about it took place after I watched the live action Scooby Doo movie. Do you guys remember that?
Oh yeah, yep. I do remember that, and I remember it being much scarier than the cartoon.
Yeah.
Like just the fact that we could actually see a
Yeah.
monster was terrifying.
Yes.
My mom didn't want me to watch that movie. I watched it with my cousins at a sleepover.
I loved that movie. I wasn't scared of that movie at all when I watched it. I loved it so much. I thought it was fantastic. Were the monsters unsettling as a child? Yes. But I was like, this is Scooby and Shaggy. They're going to figure it out, you know?
Such a great movie.
Yeah. And I finished watching that movie and I was like, great, I'm gonna, I loved it so much. I had no feelings. I had no fears about going to bed about it, nothing. And I had such a terrible nightmare about being in that cave. That's at the end of the movie where they do the Scooby sacrifice, yeah.
Ruh-roh.
And it was that cave, but everything was darker and it was wet. Because I remember in the movie, the floor was kind of covered by sand, but in my dream, everything was like an inch of black water. And there was this creature that looked like the monsters, but it was smaller, darker, and much meaner, right? It wasn't as silly as like the movie ones. And it was chasing me and trying to get at me. And then for some reason, I turned around and for some reason it was dead. Like just explicitly dead, cut open, and that scared me even more because I'm like, if I was scared of that, what killed that?
Question.
So I was very.
How old were you?
When did that movie come out? I don't even know.
2000.
2000s.
I was definitely
in elementary school.
I was definitely in elementary school. Yeah, I can say that for sure. I was in elementary school when that happened. And I thought about that. I still think about that dream. I'm thinking about it right now. I can see the image in my head of that dead thing. And I'm like, oh my God, it's so scary. I
Reality, it was that little thing from Black Culture.
Oh God. No, it wasn't. Gurgi is sacred. Gurgi is sacred.
Monsters in the dream.
Night terrors. So yeah, my night terrors as a child were very monster based. They were very like things chasing me or like things that were faster than me. Like my dreams, my night terrors, I should say. I keep on calling them dreams. My night terrors as a child, I've had a lot of them. People who know me are gonna laugh at this. About being underwater and surrounded by whales.
That is so interesting because whales are such excellent communicators. That's it. That's all I have. That's all I have.
I'm sorry for everyone out
those
there.
irrational fears.
Yeah.
Okay, I almost feel like she was having dreams
You
of being
guys,
protected and was
I'm
like,
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry.
But whoever is not afraid of swimming with whales, I respect you 100%. I respect whales 100%. But I could never imagine myself being in a water with a whale or even a dolphin.
A blue whale?
No. Mm-mm.
I understand if it's a killer whale.
No. Especially killer whales. Fuck orcas. They're
I
killing
love them.
machines.
You don't say fuck. I love them. They're great.
But yeah. uh they yeah, those were definitely my night terrors as a child. As an adult, I've had really eerie nightmares where the fear is much more kind of crisp. As in, it's not a monster, but it's like a disappearing of someone that I love, right? And it's just this cold feeling in my chest. Like I wake up and I still have it in my chest, like, oh, the remnants. And I'm like, oh my God, thank God that's a dream. And my body's like clashing. It's like still holding the fear and the coldness, but then the kind of like the relaxation of like, okay, you're awake. That was a dream. That wasn't real, right? It's about, a lot of them have been about like like losing people that I love, right? And it's not like I'm watching them die or I'm watching something terrible happen to them. No, it's literally like I'm trying to find them in a crowd, right? And they were right behind me, right? Like I'm in a crowd, they were right behind me, and then I turn around and they're gone. And I'm like frenzy, like I feel like I'm in Times Square trying to look for like a piece of hay. You know, like it feels just that difficult. And of course, there's like the really universal feelings of dreams where like you want to run and you're trying to run and you can't, and your feet are like cemented to the ground. It's like all of that combined with the storyline of like you're in a mass. And sometimes it gets even more suffocating where like I'm in an open field. Like I was with someone, I was in a deserted location, and I was with someone, whether it be someone I knew, like I could, most of the time I can pinpoint it to, oh, it's this person in my life. Like they're real. They're real people in my life. And then there's sometimes where it's just my dream created this person, right? And then we're in like a Sahara all alone, right? And you know, we're traveling, we're trying to survive together, and then I turn and they're gone. And it's just empty, open space, and I'm more terrified, you know? So that's definitely what adult terrors become.
Thanos snapped his fingers and they disappeared.
That is
Yeah.
extremely terrifying, Tess.
Yeah.
To experience as an adult, and it's so specific.
Mm-hmm.
Like a very specific type of dream to have.
Yeah. I've had those the most. And I feel like those especially leave me with such, oh, like I'm so unsettled for the rest of the day. So unsettled. I wake up and I'm like, I know this day's already trash.
Well, because it's also
Hey.
you're searching for them in the dream too, right?
Yes.
So
Whether
you're
it
exhausting
be
yourself.
in the open field or like and in the open field I always feel like I have to run faster, and I never can. I can never run as fast as I want to.
This is
Yeah.
why you don't listen to crime shows.
You guys, the crime shows prepare me.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Especially the field one.
Yeah.
Because that's almost more scary.
Mm-hmm.
Because the
Yeah.
crowd, it's like, okay, in your mind, you're thinking maybe I just can't see them. But a field.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's why it's like, where does she even search? It's almost like you kind of like. I mean, I don't know what you're doing in your dreams, but
Running.
the idea of exactly.
I'm always trying to run, especially in the open field ones.
This person was just beside me.
Oh, like literally right there. My shock is like I'm getting empathy from my own dream because I'm re-feeling it all over again. I'm like, they were right there, and then I just turn and they're gone, and it's weird. It's just so weird because sometimes I feel like I hear them. Sometimes I feel like if I move my hands wide enough, I'm hitting something, but then I look and there's nothing there, and that's all happening in my dream. And
Have you had any recently?
I have actually. And this one wasn't so much about a physical place, but it was actually a dream of it's kind of gory, so I apologize, right?
If you are
maybe
here for the gore,
maybe
listen in.
stick around.
If not, I'm already sorry because I think we probably already talked about it a lot. Anyway.
I'm already sorry. Me too. It was about someone I knew, right? And they were actually sitting with me in a hospital room, and I don't remember why I was in a hospital room, but they were talking to me and I was not really paying attention, and then all of a sudden they're like, okay, and they start to like hack off my arm. So I was like, "What?" and and then the person was like, "Yeah, because like this needs to happen." And I'm like, I'm pleading with them, and they're like, "No, no, no." And I felt everything. And then I turn, like it's just this pinnacle of feeling so much, and then I turn and everything's gone. The person's gone, my arm is gone, and suddenly I feel nothing, and it's just numb and cold. So
Talk about giving someone a hand and they take the whole arm.
Well said.
she'll be here all week, guys.
That's crazy though, because
she'll be here. She'll be here all week.
It's crazy that you still had the same idea though of them disappearing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally different scenario,
Mm-hmm.
but they still disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
With your arm.
With my arm, and
Like
it
you
was my
felt that
left
you knew
arm,
that
to
they
be
had the
specific.
arm.
Yeah, I knew they had it for sure. I was like, they took it and they took my arm and they took themselves, and they're not even going to explain to me what happened. Nothing. And yeah, it's just a very real cold feeling. That just it's like a phantom feeling almost. Especially from that recent dream, it was very much a
Chilling.
yeah, 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 yeah. And when I woke up, I actually remember feeling like pins and needles in my arm. Yeah.
I was gonna ask if that woke you up.
It did not, because, well, again, this is also with the idea that we actually dream much longer from when we, stop remembering to when we wake up, right? So I don't know. I don't know if I woke up instantly or if that just happened at like 3 a.m. and then 3 hours later my alarm went off. But yeah, I remember waking up and I just my alarm went off because it was a work day. So I was going to reach for my alarm, and when I was reaching, I was like, "Oh, my my arm just dropped because of the pins and needles, like your leg or arm falling asleep." So yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Oh, interesting. Waking Life, which is also an amazing movie about lucid dreams, by the way, called Waking Life. Gorgeous, gorgeous movie. Um, we should link it, just because we are talking about dreams today.
I got you.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll send you a link so we can get that up there. Um, all right. So I hope you all enjoyed the knowledge of a few of our night terrors and, again, the evolution from adolescence into adulthood, because it is very real, and it's cool to hear that all of us have had a very defining path with all of our dreams over the years. And our last question for tonight is going to be talking about very specific dreams from each of us. So we want to share our most impactful dreams of our entire lives with you guys. And they're all different. They're all totally different types of dreams. So I'll start us off. And the one that I want to share with you guys is the coolest dream that I've ever had. And I still think I'm so fortunate to have experienced a dream like this. And it was definitely the result of a lot of effort that I put in my life at this time. And you reap what you sow. So when I was breaking out of my religious upbringing, I dove really, really deep into sacred geometry and the science of spirituality. And in doing so, I learned about astral projections. And astral projections are also tied to lucid dreaming. There's a way that you can prepare your body to be in a wake state while it's in REM. And there's just like certain things that you do to like bring your body to this level of awareness. And the benefit is heightened relaxation and revitalization, right? So like that overall, like the overall goal of doing this and mastering this is to have the best rest and sleep of your life, because you are actually in control of your sleep. And I was able to do it once. And the dream that I had while experiencing this, I'll never forget. And it was an experience that I could have never even thought would happen. And so essentially, I I did it by I stayed in my bed. I laid in my bed. I laid in my bed with my eyes open and I meditated, right? And I meditated until I fell asleep, but I remained in my body. And so I never felt like I fell asleep this night. I felt like I made the realization that now my body was no longer awake. My body was in a sleep state. And then once I recognized that I was sleeping, I left and I flew. And flying is a very typical experience in astral projections while also being a very rare experience in normal dreams. It's very rare for us to fly in our dreams. We might like kind of we fall a lot in our dreams, but we rarely take off in our dreams. And what's insane to me is what I decided to do while I was flying. You know, I could have flown anywhere. I could have flown across like the entire world, right? In this dream because we can do anything and I had all of the power and I visited my friends and family. That's what I did. So I remember going to visit my parents. I remember going to visit my grandmother in the nursing home. I remember going to check up on one of my best friends at the time. And I remember exploring the house that I was living in at the time, which was my boyfriend's family's home, just exploring each of the bedrooms at night and experiencing them at night. Like I was living in the spaces in that exact time. So, like, I just watched my parents sleeping through their window, you know, and I watched my friend crying in the corner next to his bedroom through his window. And I specifically remember that one because it was on the second floor. He lived in a 2-story house. And I remember like flying, seeing him crying, stopping, and like standing outside of his window on the roof, peeking in, wondering why he was crying so hard. And yeah, and then I went to my other friends and family members' homes. And what's insane is that after that, I just safely took myself back to bed. And I remember falling asleep with a smile and accepting that that was it. Enjoyed the remainder of a night's rest and woke up and couldn't believe that I had just had the experience that I had. And the first thing that I did was send a message to my friend at the time. Still one of my best friends. And I sent a message to that friend just saying, "Hey, just want to say like that I just like I was thinking about you and I just wanted to check in, you know, and like say what's up. How have you been?" They weren't doing well, you know, like they were really struggling with something. And this is the type of friend who is open with me. It's one of my best friends, and it was insane to me the connection from seeing what I saw in the dream in such a real, authentic way, and then contacting them and realizing that they needed someone. And again, I think that the only reason why I was able to, in my opinion, I look at it as an achievement. And I feel like the only reason why I was able to achieve that for myself was because, again, in that moment and in that time in my life, I was so spiritually connected to myself and to my surroundings and to the ability that I could have. You know, I really believed that I could do it. And I've never had any experience like that, you know? And I tried, especially in that season, you know, like I really tried to go through that and have that experience again because it was addicting. Like I've never felt so alive, which is insane because I was dreaming. But that was the experience. That was how it felt. And it has definitely impacted me to this day because when I see and meet people who talk about experiences like that, I have nothing but honor and respect for them because, again, I still can't believe that I did it. So I honor the people who make that a regular practice for themselves, and I really do believe that they are enlightened because it's very real.
I envy people like you and people who can also control their dreams. Because one of the things that I wish I could do is continue a dream that I used to have. I remember I used to have a friend who would tell me all the time, like, "Yeah, I decided that I'm gonna continue it on like the day after or 2 days later." I was like, "You know what? That dream was good. Let me continue it," and they were able to pick off exactly where they left. So I'm jealous.
I'm still jealous of your friends because, like I said, I was only able to do it once, and
Yeah, but still,
but it
sometimes
is
once is
something.
enough.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that like just us sitting here in this episode and like talking about it and like reimagining myself in that moment again, and just the joy of flying.
I didn't know that flying was one of the rarest things to do in a dream.
Yeah, it is.
And that's by yourself? Like, what if you're on a dragon or something?
Oh, I don't know. That's something to look
Okay.
into. Yeah, this was by myself. Like I fly.
Right,
I am flying. Um so
Hmm.
yeah, that's a good thing to know. Yeah, if there's a difference when something else is flying you.
Mm-hmm.
Um I would love to hear your take.
So I feel like the most impactful dream is what I've already said, right? That recurring dream that's
Yeah.
just been so terrifying. But when I was in Japan, I did have a lot of instances of the same type of dream um, that I think is impactful in the sense of having that realization, right? Of wow, this is how powerful the mind can be sometimes. Although I was not able to astral project or fly or anything like that, the time period where I had these dreams was back when I was living in Japan and I was teaching there abroad. And I think if I reflect on it now, potentially it could have been giving me some sort of warnings or signs of what it might be like coming back. So if you haven't heard our last episode on Japanized, we spoke a little bit about culture shock and reverse culture shock. And in that episode, I talked about how I was kind of an alien coming back, or sometimes that reality didn't feel like it was real. My reality in Miami maybe never even happened. And then when I would be here in Miami, the reality of Japan never happened. And it felt like it was such a dream. So when I think this only happened when I was sleeping in Japan, I would have dreams that felt so real where I wake up and I'm in my Miami bed. Like I'm in my bedroom. I wake up. I think only one or two times I've had a full day, only to wake up and realize oh I'm in Japan. But there's definitely been several times where I'm falling asleep, and I feel like I wake up in my Miami bedroom, and then I'm even if I don't go through a full day, all of a sudden I'm going back to sleep, or I'm recognizing that I'm in a bed again. And when I wake up in my Japan bed, I get really confused because my mind is thinking, why are we here? Were we in Miami? Like, did we not fall asleep in Miami yesterday? And then that's when I start realizing, like, oh, that was a dream. I wasn't actually over there. I was just dreaming about it. Or there are times where I'll go to sleep. I know that I'm in my Japanese bed, but for whatever reason, I guess my mind is so used to being in Miami, or maybe I was missing Miami. I don't know what it was, but it felt like I was in the Miami bed. So even if I didn't have a dream that night of me waking up or anything, when I would wake up, I would have that same question of like, oh, we're in Japan. We're not in Miami. Um, but other than that, another dream that I can think of that's kind of similar to Tess's feeling of bodies and mutilation. Again, gore
Ooh,
warning.
Buckle up, buckle up.
you're
Um,
welcome for those who are here.
yeah, I think I want to say this happened in high school, and I don't know how it started because my dreams also have to have a tendency of starting with one place with a set of characters and all of a sudden midway transitioning into a whole completely different plot and setting with different characters. But eventually I got to a point where I was in a swamp. Like swampy bayou type, really murky water, flies everywhere, and I was there with my mom. And for whatever reason, I had a hole in my stomach. Like, those diagrams that you see of people and then they have a hole so you can see the insides? That's what it was. And I could see my insides. I could see my intestines. They were very much alive, and I had to go to the hospital. And the only way that I could get to the hospital, and I could see it very far away, was if I walked through the murky swamp water with the hole open, and I could feel my stomach, like that murky water getting inside. And it felt it was like some weird like things crawling in there. The only thing that I can think of that maybe it linked was eventually in high school, it turned out I had an ovarian cyst in my stomach that was the size of a baby.
Wow.
And maybe that was my body trying to warn me or something like that, of there's something here and you need to check it out. And I only say that because, we were trying to go to a hospital. Um, but yeah, that was one of the weirdest dreams
And
I've
was
ever
it,
had.
because you said you could feel it all moving, was it painful?
I didn't feel pain. And even though it felt like the water was inside and I was worried, I remember being worried about it's dirty water. Like, am I not going to get an infection or anything like that? For whatever reason, in the back of my mind, like, I knew everything's okay. Like, it's not actually going in. But it felt like it. And I never made it to the hospital, by the way. In my dream, I woke up
insane.
as we were kind of close to it.
It's a really insane connection that you ended up having that later. Like later enough for you to connect the dots is really crazy. It is almost like your body was informing you of early signs.
Because I haven't looked it up either. But with how it felt, where the location of the cyst was, how it felt weird in my body. I almost felt like, that feeling when you're on a waterbed, that, but like in your stomach.
Oh, that's unsettling.
You described the feeling very well.
That,
I felt it.
That's unsettling. That's very unsettling.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I guess those.
Yeah, I can definitely see how that would be impactful. And that was in high school.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
There are pieces of your dreams that I'm like, oh, I've had that. My mind has definitely produced that for me as well. Not in the same storyline, but the same feeling, right? The same fear, maybe. Yeah.
Now, I'm curious to know
Yeah.
if your impactful one is a night terror or a dream.
It's a dream. I've been debating talking about this dream the whole episode, right? And
She knows she needs to talk about it.
yeah, and that's how I know I need to talk about it. So I haven't ever really, I think I've shared this dream only a handful of times, right? And because it was so prominent for me when I was young, and now it's kind of neutral, I guess. But it happened when I was in 3rd grade. I know the exact age I was because I was in ballet at the time. And I remember sitting in my classroom and just like, I was so shocked by the dream that it was so prominent with me the entire day. And it stuck with me for the longest time. Like, this is how I know it was the most impactful dream, because it shocked me. I was a little 9-year-old, like, oh my God. Like, and I remember looking, like, staring, like, just staring off. And I was zoning out, like, while my eyes were looking at my ballet bag hanging by my desk. It was like,
Wow.
I was very,
You're stuck in that world.
I was stuck. Yeah. I would be in class and I would just like think about the dream. I would just be like, I'm not really here. I'm still in that environment. And that's how I felt for a long time. I want to say like 2 weeks. Yeah. And I was 9 years old. And this is going to sound ridiculous, but this was the dream that I didn't know it then, but being older, right? I knew this was the dream that started my puberty. Because my dream was the first ever like romantic awakening.
Oh my God. I am so glad that you are talking about this now, because it did cross my mind that I was like, damn, I haven't talked about any of my like romantic dreams, which were such a pivotal part of growing up.
Dude.
So I'm so happy you're talking about this.
I
Let's hear it.
realized my first crush through this dream, I think, and that was Jared Padalecki.
She said the name.
Yeah, it was Jared Padalecki. I think the first time I saw him was I don't know if this is right, but I feel like when I saw him in the movie House of Wax. Do you remember that? It was a horror movie.
No, I died. If it came out when we were in
I was
3rd
not
grade, I
allowed.
didn't see it.
I don't
Same,
think
girl.
I don't know when it came out, but I saw the House of Wax when it came out. And I remember seeing him and I was like, that's how he looks in my dream. Not later on. For those of you that have seen the movie, not when he ends, but like when he starts.
Before he melts, I'm assuming.
Right.
You had to be there, you know? You had to be there. It was Paris Hilton when she was on the rise, you know? That's House of Wax.
Very short-lived period.
Yeah, very short-lived. You know, she's on
She's
the rise
fine now,
again.
yeah.
She's a DJ.
good
She's doing
now.
her thing.
She's older.
But anyway, yeah, this dream was specifically like I was older. I felt older. I did not feel 9 years old. And I remember specifically the place that I was at felt so otherworldly. Like, could I tell you that it felt like glass, like a building just of glass panels from like, you know, ceiling to roof? Yes. I mean, ceiling to roof, that's the same thing. Floor to ceiling glass panels. That's what it felt like. It felt like futuristic, but also very Miami. It was crazy, right? And I remember thinking to myself, this is like Jared Padalecki owns this place. Like this was his apartment, and it was a very big party, and it felt massive. Like navigating this studio, whatever it was, just felt insane. And there were so many people in that house. So many people. And I remember we were a couple. Like it was established we were a couple. I was much older. He was leading me through the house. And for whatever reason, I just felt, I guess, on my guard about being there, right? And then he took me to, he took me upstairs. And I remember it was like, very specifically, it was a very circular motion feeling. So it was like those loop stairs, you know? And we went to the second floor and we went into his room and he sat me down and he was just like talking about our future. And he was telling Jared Padalecki, if you're out there.
Oh, he's definitely listening.
And I was listening to him and I was like, you know, I was like really scared about agreeing to that, you know? And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, it's going to work out. Don't worry. And then I remember he was like comforting me and we kissed and we were making out. And then my dad walks in.
Oh.
And he was like, my dad walks in the sense of like,
invited him to the party.
I guess so, because he walked in the sense of like, hey, I'm whoa. Like he was as if he was like mid conversation with me. And I was like, what the hell? And like, I remember bolting off the bed and we were like, I was terrified. And my dad was so angry and he ran off and I was trying to run after him and Jared Padalecki was like, no, don't go. And I'm like, I have to use my dad. I got to explain things. This isn't real. So I ran after my dad and I don't remember much after that. I'll be honest, right? That this is like the most that I remember now being like, it's been years, right? Since that dream. But I remembered much more when I was 9 years old and I was just thinking about it. And you know, my most prominent thought when I was 9 years old was, how could I have handled that better? I was like, I remember thinking to myself, like, you know, why was my dad mad at me? It's not fair. He's my boyfriend. I was so upset at so many things. And I was like, God, I wish the dream had ended differently. I just want to like lay in Jared Padalecki's arms.
In the movie, was this actor an adult or a teenager?
Jared Padalecki?
Yeah.
His character was a teenager.
Okay.
I don't know how old he actually
That's
was
fair.
when he did the movie.
That's fine. But
his character
You
was
knew
like
him
a
as a
teenager.
teenager.
right.
You just weren't a teenager yet.
When I don't remember what the first movie was that I saw him in. I'll be honest with you. I really can't pinpoint that. Like I can tell you for sure, the first movie that I ever saw Elijah Wood in was Flipper, by the way. Dolphins, scared, right?
Wow.
But I couldn't tell you for the life of me, like, was it House of Wax? Was it Gilmore Girls? I don't know, you know? But yeah, Jared Padalecki. Yeah.
Wait, he's from
Yeah.
Gilmore Girls?
Yeah,
Who is he?
Dean. He's Dean.
He's Dean.
He's Dean.
Oh my God. And he's in House of Wax.
Toxic
Okay,
Dean.
great. Good to put a face to the
Toxic
name.
Dean.
Still
That's nice.
faceless.
Rory could have done better.
Then Dean?
we won't get
They
into
went
that
through a lot. They went through
conversation.
a lot. Grover's corner.
There's a whole debate about Rory and her love interest.
Well,
So
it has
you
nothing
know,
to do with your dreams.
yeah,
'Cause
yeah. It doesn't
Rory,
have anything to
she
do-
wasn't at the party.
Yeah, no. I was Rory, I suppose.
Well,
But
Tess,
yeah.
seriously, thank you so much for sharing that. That is
Yeah.
such a cool memory to
It
have.
feels so vulnerable because you know
Yeah.
it's not even like, trust me when I say I am not censoring like sex or anything. Like my 9-year-old mind was like, kissing was risque enough, guys. Like my mind was so afraid and felt so exposed for my dad having walked in. So I was like,
Yeah, 9-year-old, you're like, oh my god, we kiss with tongue.
girl,
It's
I
a
didn't
whole
even,
other
even that.
I
level.
didn't even get to tongue. I was just like, it's on the lips.
Their makeout was, yeah,
A peck. Mwah.
right?
Yeah, it was on the lips. I was like, yeah.
Again, I'm so glad you touched on it because I did want to kind of like pay a quick homage to all of my romantic dreams because when Pam was talking about how like her friend would just say like, I want to live in that dream a little bit longer. Bro, that was every single dream I had with a crush of mine in it. Like
How many
every single
times?
nightly because I was a kid and I dreamed all multiple times a night, you know?
Yeah.
And like I would live for those little dreams with my crush. You know, like those little dreams. I'd be so excited. I'd be like, I'm gonna dream about him tonight. Tonight's the night. And that was every night. You know, every night of like probably not even talking to him in class. Probably not even
Yeah.
getting to say hi. You know, but then
Yeah.
being like, well, tonight I'm gonna dream about him. And I wouldn't. You know, like there was no control over that. But still, very special place
Yeah.
in my heart for all of the times that this happened a lot that I left that they gave me my slipper. Like so many little dreams where my crush gave me my slipper at the fountain. Like
Oh.
it's just what it was. That was just, you know, like that meant I had a crush. It meant that I liked the person, right? Or I thought I did. I was telling myself that. But yeah. So thanks y'all for being here with us for this episode. That does wrap it up for today's topic on A Nightmare on Dream Street. Sorry, just want to say, you know, I forgot to mention a very, very important point to those who are not watching us right now and to hopefully not confuse those who have been watching us this entire episode.
Yeah.
Because it's October, we decided to spook things up on our podcast. So I don't know if you've noticed, but we did have some small spooky details, and they will be filling in as our spooky episodes continue. And we're in costume.
Little bit, you know.
Yes.
Halloween starting now. So what
I'm
better
a
way?
Dalmatian.
Yeah.
For those of you who can't see me,
Yes.
Tess is a little
I'm a bunny.
rabbit.
Yeah, I'm embodying a little tea party energy here.
Mhm.
Little white rabbit in a tea party.
Oh my
A
god. yes.
very dear friend of mine gifted me some tea set earrings from listening to our podcast. So I thought it was super special that, you know, we bring in all of the we had such great gifts from our friends today.
Yeah.
So,
and all in support
really
of the
enjoying that.
podcast.
Yes. So, you know, just a wonderful homage of support and love out there, and we're extra feeling it today. So,
And Pam is a
Mickey Mouse ears.
right?
Yeah.
But it's like a
With
candy skull
flowers.
vibe.
yes,
Yeah,
very
yeah,
much
yeah.
like Day of the Dead,
Right.
Mickey.
No.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Day of the Dead, the kid friendly version.
And you may have noticed she's also revived a little bit of color. She's a different color today, folks.
Oh yes.
For those of you who can see.
Fresh for the season.
Fresh for spooky season.
What's that sound I hear? You hear that? Sounds like shuffling.
Hello.
Time?
Yeah, I think it's time I whip out my spell book and grab my cards for a little reading.
Our favorite time. This is my favorite part of the podcast. Since I'm the one who talks about the tea.
And this episode, since we were talking about dreams, I thought it would have been the perfect episode to use my Salvador Dali tarot deck.
It's a beautiful deck.
It is so gorgeous. I wish you guys could see it. I mean, you'll see some of the images when we edit this video, but the
May I
edges.
interject for a second? My
Sure.
favorite Salvador Dali painting, I believe, is called In Persistence of Memory, which again, I just think ties so well with dreams. It's about dreaming.
Yeah, and like this deck, I think every single, so I've mentioned in other episodes that some tarot decks are not friendly for learning because the minor arcana don't really have pictures, but this one, every single card is a picture, and it's one of his paintings, or something that he drew. So it's so beautiful and so special, and it's been hiding away in our little spell book here. What does it say?
A compendium of magical workings for your everyday spellcaster.
So I think I'm gonna leave the question to you guys. What do you think I should ask the tarot decks? Because we've talked a little bit about dreams, some night terrors that we've had, but I'm wondering what's something that you would like the cards to say or ask them in terms of dream. This will be a very authentic live reading. Not that the other ones
Yeah.
weren't, but
I feel like, I don't know, the word bold and daring, like the words bold and daring kind of come to my mind
Mm-hmm.
almost as a maybe to those who might be a little.
That's the pull right there.
Oh yeah,
It
I
came
know,
right
right?
out.
It's definitely
As
about
you
bold
were
and daring.
talking, yeah, as you were talking, one card just spewed out.
But yeah, but
Yeah.
and like Tess, feel free to interject too. But the idea of like, we've been talking about the most pivotal moments and realizations within all of the dreams that we've had in our entire lives, right? So if something like if the bold and impactful ones are what are standing out, then I guess it kind of makes me think of the question of like, what can I guess how can I be as bold as my best dreams? Like what can help me kind of like attaching those dreams to real life, right? Like where's the connection for me, especially in my adulthood, right? When I'm much more idealistic about things.
Yeah. Where lies the stronger connection to our dreams?
okay. So I think what I'm gonna do for this reading and what I feel will be appropriate is I'm gonna have you guys pull a card.
Ooh.
Excited.
Bold and
This is the
daring.
first time we do that.
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna have you guys each pull a card and we'll see what comes up. So that way each one of you has a specific card that's more inclined to what you're thinking, right? And then what I think I'm gonna do, what feels right today, is I think I would like to ask the cards, and I'm gonna take this as my pull. As dreams are something based on our conversation today that for me they're signs, right? They're helping you pay attention to what you should focus on, what may be important, what you may be ignoring, what you may be repressing. So I'm going to take this card that fell out as what I was asking for it. But for you guys, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? I think I'll do that. Okay.
I instantly just want to cut this in half and take this card.
Sure.
So I'm going to do that.
And then, Kaylin, if you can just pick a card, you can either put your hand over the card and see if there's a card that tingles, or visually if there's a card that calls to you, whatever you feel. Tess felt that she wanted to cut it in half and grab one. If you want to put it together, shuffle it, whatever it is that you want, whatever you feel that's calling. And we'll do a live tarot pull today in terms of a more interactive one. And that was your card, Tess?
Mm-hmm.
Can I get it, please?
Yes, of course.
Very, very interesting.
Can I touch it or?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Is this your card?
That is my card.
Is this your card? Well, how about this one?
Gosh, this imagery is insane.
Interesting. Okay. So to start off, we all pulled swords. So swords, as I've mentioned before, if you haven't heard before, swords are air energy, and
Yep.
usually it's indicative of the mind, which I think is very appropriate. in
Yep.
Especially
terms-
since the sun is in Libra right
we
now.
just oh yes, it
Started Libra
is.
season.
Air signs unite.
Okay, so the card that I pulled out is the Four of Swords. Four of Swords is usually means you need rest, like real rest, whatever the rest means for you. I'm going to read the description for this deck only because since there are paintings and images dedicated to them, that means that they have been carefully selected for their representation and their meaning. So for Four of Swords, it says negative thinking. This card shows a scene from the 1793 painting The Death of Marat by Jacques Louis David. Marat was one of the great radicals of the French Revolution whose life came to a violent end. Dali used this particular scene to warn us of the dangers of the hypnotic effect of dogmatic ideas that turn people into martyrs or fanatics who are blinded by their beliefs. The serpent on the right side is an ambiguous symbol. On the one hand, it warns you to beware of self-destructive thinking. On the other, it is a symbol of wisdom and of an upwardly spiraling personal development. Negative thinking can express itself in disastrous convictions that can only lead to dire consequences. When your convictions become more important than love or life, you will have turned into one of the living dead. This is the greater, more general warning of this card. So, the way that I'm interpreting this is kind of similar to what we were saying earlier, right? The mind is such a powerful thing. And it's also important to acknowledge that you control the thoughts in your head. So if you are thinking negatively, if you are thinking horrible things, it makes sense that those will manifest into reality or even in your dreams, right? So I think in terms of what I was asking, there's so many things that dreams can help us realize in our lives. I also think it's important to acknowledge the delicate balance of believing them to an extremity, right? So, like Kaylin was saying, when she's looking at what these dreams mean, she's not going directly to the first source that's there. She's looking at all of the different sources that are out there and what are the potential different meanings for them, and even the slight change of how it shows up, right? If your teeth are fall out because you get punched versus your teeth literally just falling out by themselves, it's very easy for things of this nature, right? Dreams, astral projection, lucid dreaming, they seem to be very appealing, but it can also be dangerous, right? As with anything in life, you have to make sure that you are, one, well rested, aka your body and everything being prepared for what it is that you're wanting to do. But on the other hand, it's also important to acknowledge the power that you do have. And that can manifest itself in a positive way or in a negative way, right? The snake is ambiguous. You could see it as a good thing, you could see it as a bad thing. What's important is how you see it. So I think this card is really reminding us of the power that we have and to be mindful and careful when using that power. For the Five of Swords, which is immediately after, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. For the Five of Swords, which follows right after the Four of Swords, which I think is interesting, is the essence of mind. Positively interpreted, this card shows a charming and dapper man looking towards the woman on the left. His feet are firmly planted on the ground. His mind is liberated, and he possesses the freedom of a butterfly. Negatively interpreted, the card shows a self-conceited man who has the air of entitlement with those swords he has managed to grab. He stands in an abyss and sees the woman, who has no way of getting hold of the swords, only as a blur. For both parties involved, man as well as woman, this is a picture of uncertainty, competition, and indirect communication. It is never too late, and only very rarely too early. to draw conclusions from your experiences and to learn the lesson contained within. Do not allow difficulties to bring you down. Be clear and honest. You don't have anything to lose, but much to win. Look at the two swords lying on the floor and ask yourself whether you understand the power of your unused thoughts or of the joy it brings when you overcome and discard old doubts. Beware of empty promises and unfound speculation. So could you remind me again what you had asked specifically?
Yeah.
Because it had to deal with connections.
Was this?
This one's yours. But the question.
No,
that you
that
were
one was the
asking.
one I pulled.
Yeah, this is Tessa's.
Oh,
Mhm.
this one's Tessa.
This is
Yeah.
the one that kept pulled.
Okay.
Mhm.
Can you remind me of yours?
Yeah, the question that I had asked was where do we focus our work, right, to connect stronger to our dreams, right?
Okay.
Mhm.
So I feel that the description itself is kind of self-explanatory, right? It's taking a look, and I think it's also
The mind.
yes, it's the power of the mind, but most importantly, the Five of Swords is almost an acknowledgement of the awareness of what serves you and what doesn't, right? It's all up to you. It's how you choose to see it. So the card itself is saying this could be looked at negatively, this can be looked at positively, this could be looked at as the woman is the one who can't reach anything, or the man is the one who's in freedom. So I think in order to make those connections, the how is standing in your power, but really understanding that, right? And knowing the kinds of manipulation power that it has. So don't use everything, because when you overwhelm yourself with all of these different resources, with all of these different information, especially if you're not being very critical about it, about where you're looking your information from, I think that's what this card is really trying to warn against. You know, it's so easy now to just either go on TikTok or go on Instagram and believe some of the people that are on there. And all of that is nice and fun. But if you really want to get into the root of dream interpretation or harnessing, you know, the ability to be able to lucid dream or astral project, do deeper research, deeper dive. It's not impossible. I think it's a really good card and a really good omen of once you make that connection of how much power you do have, even in you trying to look things up, right? The power that you have to kind of filter all of that information and recognize what is valid and what isn't. That's where you'll find the freedom, right? That's where you'll find this. What's the word I'm looking for? Almost like a release of a burden that you'll be able to float and feel free. And the reason why that kind of terminology comes into my mind is the guy is not using the two swords on the floor, right? He's really only holding one sword. The other two swords are kind of floating in the air. So, and he's standing in his confidence. So once you acknowledge that and have that confidence in yourself and in the research that you're doing and in the work that you're doing to really understand how to do whatever it is that you want to do in regards to dreaming and make those connections, it'll be easier. And that could be something as simple as, like I said earlier, making sure that you're being critical about your research, or even keeping a dream journal, you know, being consistent with something and understanding how all these little things, like you don't have to do it all. You can get there with just such small things, you know, and it'll be step by step. Because if you do too much, it might overwhelm you. So now, Caitlin, can you remind me your question?
Yes. My question was about being bold and daring. How can we be as bold and daring as our most impactful dreams in our lives?
Okay. So that's interesting. The card that you got was 10 of Swords, which is destructive power. The card shows a scene from the 1798 painting, The Death of Julius Caesar by Vincenzo Camuccini. In this card, swords represent the destructive power of the mind. The harmful aspect of the sword culminates in the perfidious attempt on Caesar's life. Applied to our own lives, this card represents the end of a destructive and desolate period. There is no point in resisting what will be. The only way through the ordeal is to surrender to it, no matter how painful. Although thoughts have power, this card warns us that we are powerless over other people's opinions and perspectives. On the positive side, the Ten of Swords could mean the end of a delusion or conflict. So, in terms of how to stand in that power, I think this card is a warning, right? But also trying to point us into how we can overcome that, right? So usually the Ten of Swords, the way that it leads up, the Five of Swords is you're leaving two swords, you're grabbing three. Six of Swords, you're kind of escaping or walking away from something. Then from 7, 8, and 9, it's this buildup of anxiousness, of anxiety, of thoughts that are overwhelming your brain. And I think this card is one warning, again, right? As I was mentioning earlier, being too full throttle without knowing everything that you need, and making sure that you are aware of exactly how powerful your mind can be. But it's also, I think, trying to shine a light on, because what really stood out to me in the description was you have no power over other people's minds. You have power over your mind, right? So for me, what's popping into my head is be careful what you want to use the power of dreaming for, right? If you feel like you want to stand in that power, or you maybe want to look into astral projection or lucid dreaming, what is the real reason? Because if the reason is stemming from other people or trying to change other people's perceptions of you, or it's rooted in basically just another person, I think it's warning you to be careful. But if it's something that you think it's for your better, and at the same time, I think it's also trying to show us that be careful what you wish for. You know, maybe you say that you want this power and you want to be able to do this, but be prepared for what you're going to see. And because especially one of the things that stood out to me was there's no point in resisting what will be. The only way through is to surrender to it, no matter how painful. So think about what it is. What's the root of the reason why you want to do that it is that you want to do? Is it to avoid something? Because if it is, what you're asking and looking for might be take you exactly to what you're trying to avoid and what you're trying to escape, right? There's nothing, oftentimes there's this, not stigma, but I guess, what's the word? Not cliche. I guess perception of dreams, that people dream to escape, right? Oh, you're daydreaming in class because you don't want to be here, or even in Shark Boy and Lava Girl, right? He's dreaming to he has to dream.
Dreams.
Yeah, he has to dream up things to get them out of somewhere. And so a lot of the times dreams can be a form of escapism. So what are you trying to escape? Are you trying to avoid something? Are you trying to avoid confronting something? Because if you are, reminder, the mind is a powerful thing. No matter what you do to escape it, and you're not going to, right? Julius couldn't escape his betrayers, and let these people say whatever it is that they want to say. But what matters is what you think of yourself. What matters is, are you ready? Are you even prepared to go through and ask for what it is that you want? You know, that's why I think the cards beforehand are here to remind us the mind is incredibly powerful. And we've seen a glimpse of some of that today in our conversations with the dreams. So be careful what you wish for, number one. Number two, you can definitely get there, but make sure that you're asking for what it truly is that you want. And most importantly, make sure that you equip yourself well beforehand and you are rested enough to endure what's to come. I think that's what they have to say.
Yeah. I think there's something that we've been talking about too, about progress and working towards being more aware. And we've thrown around the word dream journal a lot of the time, where, as the cards have kind of said, right? Um, keeping tools, keeping knowledge, keeping a light sense of ambition while your pure authenticity, right? I feel like that's in a nutshell what they they definitely encourage for us. Sometimes start off with not even calling it a dream journal, right? Because labels and these like task points that we kind of put ourselves sometimes can overshadow what you actually want, right? Um, and honestly, when I started out doing this and paying attention to my dreams, I was just writing when I woke up. I didn't call it anything. I just wrote. And naturally, of course, my human brain, being human, was like, what was the last thing I did? Sleep. What happened when I slept? I don't know what happened. Actually, Jared Padalecki was there. And it just naturally came. So, yeah, definitely feeling some strong encouragement of like light steps, but you know, um, strong and sincere authenticity, right?
And I love that you said that because the bottom of the deck is the Page of Cups. So I know what I said earlier sounded really scary, and I think it's just important. It's like what is it, like the disclaimers, right, on the products, just to make sure that you're not hurting yourself. But just to be a little bit hopeful, the Page of Cups is what's on the bottom, and in the book it says lightness of the heart. You are wearing your heart on your sleeve. The cup has been raised. The fish normally living underwater can be clearly seen. The emotional content of your psyche is presented lightheartedly and light-handedly. You discover something new through your emotions and in your feelings. It encourages you to leave the ghosts of the past behind. This card is all about clearly identifying your desires and fears and acting accordingly. If your own emotional state and that of others is not clear to you, this card counsels you to be cautious. Dali uses the 1717 painting The Indifferent by John Anton Watteau for a reason. If you are too careless in dealing with your emotional needs, you might end up even more unhappy and frightened. Do not be afraid to stand up for your feelings and to be as tough as necessary. You will gain new insights through meditation, increased sensitivity, and understanding. This will be a constant source of joy for you. You will be able to help others emotionally and spiritually. This is the card of playfully mastering your emotions and personal needs. So I think that card honestly wraps up everything that I said. Just make sure that you're clear, right? Clear about it and identifying your desires and your fears. So as long as you act with clarity, everything will be okay.
God bless your knowledge of tarot and
Bless up.
being able to, yeah, and like being able to make that connection using the importance of you said this was the bottom card
Yeah.
of the deck?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, so cool. I also think it's incredible that we all pulled swords, especially because of how much we were talking about night terrors today and how many things we were fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Like in our own ways, right? The ways that we did it. And so it's really cool because I think in a lot of ways, at least the way we described our night terrors, and I think some of our listeners who are tuning in too, like we don't feel equipped. When things are happening, like when things like that are happening in our dreams, we feel helpless. We feel like there's nothing that we can do to get out of it. And so I think that some of the reasons why the reading might be a little daunting for people listening is because it's a call to strength.
And personal strength, which sometimes can be really hard to step into and acknowledge.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Great read. I always love your reads.
Thank you.
Well, friends.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for being here with us tonight, today, this morning, on your lunch break, however you're tuning in.
En route to work, home,
Mhm.
play dates,
All of the other options. Folding laundry.
picking up kids
Yes.
from piano or something. I don't know.
Kids, yeah. I'm sure we got some parents. Regardless, we're so, so happy that you're here. Thank you for staying until the end. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our podcast on any and all platforms that you use and listen to us on. We so appreciate it. And we have a milestone that we want to celebrate because in preparing for tonight's episode, we realized that we just broke 100 followers on Instagram. So thank you so much, everyone, for following along on this journey. And don't worry, there is much more to come. Like we said, we are currently in the Season of the Witch series.
It's the
So-
season of the witch.
So be prepared. There will be a very, very fun release coming to you guys soon. And I also wanted to say one more thing, but I can't remember it now. So maybe it's just a good time to end the episode.
Get ready for spooky season. Things are
Spooky.
just gonna get spookier from here on out.
Jinkies.
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 Zoinks.
I know, so I don't just switch over to the zoinks. Awesome. Be well, friends. Until next time. Oh, I remember.
Ooh.
Sorry. False exit. If you enjoyed this episode, we would love to continue the conversation. All right. So please leave us a comment, repost us, right? And share your insight about a dream that you're willing to share with the general public or whoever you want to share it with. But we want to know about dreams that have impacted you. What did you think of Pam's tarot pull for all of us today? Did it resonate with you? Is there something that you're feeling called to kind of explore a little bit deeper? If you want, you can jump into our DMs to share a little bit more with us. Or again, we can't wait to see what you guys share and tag us in. So now, with that being said, be well, friends. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Happy Halloween.